things that really brought me to becoming a full-time speaker, professional speaker, was years ago I had a spinal injury. And I was at the height of my career as a fashion designer. I was actually the head designer for Kmart International, designing Jaclyn Smith. And I didn't know that the injury that had occurred would actually leave me paralyzed from the knee down. And I was wearing a leg brace. And I, for a little time, was in a wheelchair, but I was ordained during that time. And then from there, the leg brace was fit, and I ended up being in that leg brace for 13 years, I think. And I did accept another job, and I moved to North Carolina and didn't know that it would be permanent at that point. And I was standing in my closet one day and realized that it was going to be permanent, and I just walked out of my job that I had accepted in North Carolina because I just couldn't do it anymore. It was physically, it was too tough. I'd had a spinal fusion in the leg and all that stuff. And I had decided to leave, and the phone rang, and somebody had called me to do a wedding. And I thought, well, I'm a minister, I can start doing weddings. And I was doing weddings for a while, and at one of these weddings, somebody came up to me after doing the wedding, and she said, "You have such an amazing voice." And she said, "I have a friend that's a motivational speaker, and she goes all over the country speaking, and she makes all this money, and I need you to meet her." So I met her eventually, and she introduced me to this organization called the National Speakers Association. And I had lunch with her, and I told her my story about how, you know, I had had this injury and how I had overcome it. And I was kind of ashamed of it, to be honest with you. I kind of wore long skirts, and I looked like Cousin It, you know, with all these long things I used to wear, and covered it up. And she reached across the table to me, and she took my hand. And she's a marvelous person. And she said, "But honey, that's your story. And every motivational speaker has a story." I said, "But I'm basically disabled." She says, "But that's just it, you're not. You have a gift as a speaker." And she said, "You've overcome it. And you need to share that with people, because you talk about the power of the mind." And I was going, "Wow, really?" She goes, you need to get online, and you need to get that application for NSA. You need to make sure that you put my name in the application, that I'm you know, recommending you." I said, "Okay, great." Days I got accepted. And then when I got all the literature from NSA, I found out that that woman that recommended me was on the board of the National Speakers Association. So yeah, I got in. You know, it's the way the universe works, you know, and little did I know. And so it was meant to be. But what I didn't know at that time was that every motivational speaker does have a story. And then last year, almost 14 years later from getting that leg brace, I met someone who knew a doctor that was doing tendon transplants. And now, today, I no longer have the leg brace, and there's another story. So, what a motivational speaker or an inspirational speaker does is share their stories of hope and inspiration and motivation with people, because everybody has a story. I transferred from Texas Tech to the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. And that's where I also learned that the Southern Belle, they got more honey from their sugar with a little flutter of their eyelashes, so that their sugar would do their honey-do list, just like that. And that myth about the good old boys, well, that's exactly what it is, honey, because the steel magnolias, they rule the South.